So now that we've finished the Friday Night Football pick'ems, we can move on to not Jake's fun game of the week.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Who's Jake?
Not
Exactly.
Jake.
Yeah. So the fun game of the week this week.
I don't know what Jake.
We don't know who that is. Fun game of the week this week is the top 3 sneak players in Madden history. So these are players who aren't necessarily good on paper. Maybe their rating's not the highest. But for some reason, when you use them in Madden, they're just doing crazy stuff that they have no right doing.
Some real sleepers.
Yeah.
So I see my name first on the list. Is it okay if I call an audible and decide to go last?
Well, I don't know if you can go last, but I'll tell you, Huffy has to go first.
I would like to go last, please.
Okay.
Just mostly for, I don't know, I have a lot, so I just like to base them off of other people.
I'll take care of this.
I'll allow it.
You don't even have to move it. You don't have to move it.
All right, Huff is now first.
Austin is a visual learner.
I'm a visual learner.
Okay.
If it wasn't moved, it would have messed with me.
All right. Bull Phillips on the Zoom call, about to go first.
My number 3 spot is going to go to Tavon Austin.
Okay, that's
heavy hitter.
That's a good play. I like that one.
71 overall, 96 speed. You can get him real cheap. His card was always like super cheap bronze card. Guaranteed hitter to have in your lineup.
The jukes are probably good. The spin move's probably on point.
Bro, I'll be honest. I hope not everybody was as ready as Huffy with pulling up like overalls and stuff. I didn't do that.
No.
Okay. But Tavon Austin is a hitter. I like that one a lot, Huffy.
Yeah, he's on my spot. I can't wait for the rest of this list. I'm real excited.
So Huffy,
I got some more hitters.
You sounded like an ultimate team pick, though?
Yeah.
But Ultimate Team is like, there is a couple of mine actually were generated from me playing Ultimate Team. I haven't played the game in probably 3 or 4 years, but
It's Madden.
I used to play it a bunch.
It's fine. I'll say all of mine are strictly from connected franchises.
Yeah, mine.
I guess there is a slight difference in that in connected franchise, you could potentially get someone that's a low overall that has like a development trait or something. But other than that, it's pretty much the same.
It's yeah. I don't like what you're doing.
Everybody has Tavon Austin. Everybody agrees Tavon Austin is a good
number 3.
Who's your 3?
Everybody agreed. Tavon Austin, number 3.
So coming in at my number 3, and this is a player that I've recently discovered on Madden. He's won me a championship or 2. What'd you say, Hunter?
What?
What'd you say?
I,
He's an absolute speed demon. He's a lockdown corner. He gets picks. He runs them back for touchdowns. He has, he gets hits in on my games. And his name's L'Jarius Sneed.
That's what I said.
Yeah. LJ, he's my new guy. But I had him in some franchises with Hunter and Huff. He was eaten up, and then I had him in a 32-man Reddit franchise, and he took me all the way to the AFC Championship game, got 3 picks in that game, and I still lost.
I
A
will
franchise that I got kicked out of.
Hunter got kicked out of for collusion.
Unsurprising. I will say, I might throw Nathan Skinner on this list if anybody in the world would understand that, other than like Austin and Hunter.
I thought about Tornado Davis,
or Jack Moss.
But Austin, mine is kind of in the same vein as yours. This is just a guy who, for some reason, when you have him, he's probably like the 4th or 3rd corner on your team. You don't really know you have him, but then he just starts making plays all over the field, and you're like, oh, he's fast. Oh, he's doing this.
When you get in the dime?
Some KK action. I know he's one of Huffy's favorites. Kevin King.
Yeah.
Oh,
Green Bay Packers.
He's been a staple of a couple of my Madden defenses.
Yeah, look at that smug mug.
He's got the height. He's got the catching.
Yeah. So Kevin King, my numero trace.
I feel like we're talking a lot about people that you kind of have on your team and they might start making plays. I'm going to start talking about people that are on the team and you only realize because they have to start because they're the best person at the position.
Yeah.
And then they start making plays even though they're bad.
Interesting.
Well, in Madden. I won't say they're bad because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings if they're watching.
Good.
But Jamar Cheney,
Oh,
are you out of your mind? Jamar Cheney was one of the best middle linebackers that I've ever played with in Madden. Not only did he have the speed, he could shed blocks and he could cover.
His coverage,
But he was like a 72 or a 73 overall. He was unreal.
Damn,
That was like in a fantasy draft, that was like I would forego any middle linebackers just so I could wait and take Jamar Cheney later in the draft.
I just had a flashback to a franchise that I had where I was in one with Jaworski, and he definitely picked me off quite a few times with Cheney. Like he is a
Jamar Cheney, like especially if you're using him, that's
speed demon.
a user machine.
Yeah,
And even if you're not, he's still going to be making plays.
some good member berries there for sure.
I'm not into user machines because I'm a bad user.
Hunter's a terrible user. Well, he's getting better.
Huffy, who's your number 2?
My number 2 is also another wide receiver. All three of them are.
L'Jarius Sneed.
Brashad Perriman.
Okay, that's a good one. That's one that I was thinking about as well.
He almost made my list.
Absolute burner, 97 speed, 93 acceleration, only a 73 overall. You got
speed.
Yeah, he was a burner. I had him on so many franchise teams. I've had him on a lot of Ultimate Team teams.
Yeah.
Absolute monster.
I had an honorable mention, and it would be Phillip Dorset because he's also a burner.
Phillip Dorset also up there. He
I
had the size.
Early honorable mention.
not even before he gets to his number
BFF
one.
tradition.
Phillip Dorset, though, I agree. He had the size, he had the speed, he had the hands. He was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't put it together in the NFL necessarily, but in Madden, he had it all.
Austin, you're 2?
So coming in at my number 2, he's also a more recent player. He's been a staple on a lot of my franchise teams. Huff has stolen him from me a couple times. It's Tyrell Edmonds. And when I get Tyrell Edmonds on my squad, he usually leads the league in picks. He's getting hit stick fumbles. I put him at linebacker sometimes. He's undersized, but he sheds the blocks just the same.
I think you could do that with any safety, though. I don't think
There's
it's
something about him. There's a difference between him and some other safeties that have speed and hit power where I don't have to user him and he still makes the plays. I don't know what it is. His awareness is still low. But Tyrell Edmonds is definitely one of those guys for me.
So my number 2 was tricky because I was going to give it to Hayden Hurst. But then, Hayden Hurst kind of has a good overall now because he's a starter in Atlanta. So I can't give it to Hayden Hurst. But I'm going to give it to the guy who was doing it before Hayden Hurst was doing it and who still isn't good in the NFL. I'm giving it to Max with 2 X's Williams.
That I thought about that. And when I thought about that, I thought about Austin.
I used to have Max Williams
every franchise
running
team.
back.
Every franchise team, Max Williams was in his team.
Yeah, I use him as a tight end, but whenever you send him out there, he'll make spectacular catches for no reason. He'll truck some people.
Well,
Austin franchise where I found a formation where your tight end is the running back for some reason. It was like an older Madden when he was like a rookie, maybe. But I would average 8 yards a carry with him, and he would never get tackled for a loss.
Look at this sweaty picture of Max Williams I put in.
Take a peek at it.
Zoom in on his face.
That is a very sweaty
picture. He looks like he's lacking a soul. He looks like a combination of
Mark Zuckerberg and somebody else.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mark Zuckerberg and just a hoss of some kind.
All right. My number 2 may come as a bit of a surprise to y'all.
Yeah.
Because I think my number 2 could be number 1. But at number 2, I'm sending in the TM.
Oh, the nuclear bomb.
Taylor Mays. Arguably not only the best underrated Madden player, but arguably the best Madden player of all time.
Yeah.
Taylor Mays.
Talk about 05 Michael Vick. They don't know about Taylor Mays.
I honestly would rather have Taylor Mays in my lineup than 05 Michael Vick. Taylor Mays had it all. If you're playing defense, especially if you're user in him, like he wasn't necessarily gonna cover people, but if you were user in him, he had speed, he had hit power, he could shed blocks, and that was all you needed. As long as you as the user could actually cover people, you were getting picks, you were getting sacks, you were stopping the run, you were doing everything you needed. I think Taylor Mays might be the best Madden player that I've ever used, but I have one that I think tops it, so I put him at number 2.
I have to hear that. But I will say, as soon as you switch Taylor Mays from a CPU player and you switch over to him as a user, he changes from Taylor Mays to Sean Taylor.
Exactly.
What?
Every hit was a fumble.
It's
Every
actually
ball thrown in the air was an interception if it's on that half of the field.
I don't know if Huffy ever witnessed it, but like Taylor Mays was actually the biggest game changer. Like if Taylor Mays is on your team and he's back there and it's just a CPU, you're like, okay, he's back there. Don't really got to worry about it. Maybe even bomb one over the top because he can't cover for shit. As soon as you see the user switch back to him, you're like, well, fuck. I might die in
Our
real
old
life.
franchises, he would go round 1, round 2.
Really?
No,
He would 70 overall or
he
less.
would regularly go round 1.
Yeah. If you didn't take him round 1, you're taking a big gamble because if someone else gets him, there's no touchdowns going deep. He's so fast.
In the 11th,
he had like 90s between, I don't remember, it was like between like 96 or 98 speed,
and he was 6.
He had like 96 or 98 hit power. Like he had really good block shedding.
97 jumping, 98.
He had really good block shedding. There was seasons where I took him and then I moved into middle linebacker and I just used him as a middle linebacker.
Torsky discovered him first.
I'm sure the story's been told before, but in the 11th grade, I was playing some pickup football with Torsky and some other friends. And
I mean, sometimes you hit the rogue safety.
I jumped up about probably at least 14 feet in the air to catch this pass.
I'm sure that's how it happened.
I saw it. It's true.
Catch this pass perfectly. I get it. But out of nowhere, he comes in and yells Taylor Mays and just spears me into the ground. And I like fractured my wrist and it was terrible.
Yeah.
No,
he did. I will say he did hold on to the ball. He did hold on to the ball.
Julian Edelman type where he can take
but
very cerebral.
One more Taylor Mays story. Coach Jake almost benched me before a high school football game because I was talking about Taylor Mays too much on the bus. And he got pissed off.
About the whole Hunter thing though. It wasn't the first time. I was known as a bit of a rogue safety on the football team.
Yeah.
I was a defensive lineman. I played defensive end, but when you moved me back to safety, I just did whatever I wanted. I didn't follow coverages and I made plays. And I remember one time we were doing practice defense. I switched positions with Casey. Casey moved from safety up to DN. I moved back to safety. Went back to safety. Pick 6. Instantly. Coach made me run for the rest of practice. He was like, why were you back there? He was like, you have no business being back there. What are you doing? But it was a fun time. Taylor Mays, what a guy.
Legend.
I also like watching his NFL highlights because it's literally him, people trying to bomb over top of him. And he doesn't deflect the pass or pick it off, even though he could, because he's faster than everybody. What he does is spear the receiver.
Yeah.
And it's an instant pass interference.
It's
He
a
actually there was probably 3 different teams that he got a starting job on, and he lost it within a week or 2.
Yeah. Legendary play in college of Taylor Mays. He once knocked the opposing player and his teammate out on the same hit.
Yeah, it was USC versus Penn State. He
Yeah.
knocked a USC player and a Penn State player out in one play.
That's insane. I don't know how I've never heard his name before.
Oh,
We'll get you some
Wow.
highlights.
yeah.
crazy,
Maybe
actually.
you weren't as I won't even say as in depth in Madden, but maybe you weren't diving deep into the Madden players back when Taylor
Into the
Mays
low
was a
stuff.
monster.
We were a Madden phenom group over here. We were looking for any
We
competitive
do.
advantage.
Yeah.
But
Well,
who's coming in at your numero uno?
I think we all know who it is.
My
I think
numero
we
uno.
I don't.
I think
My numero
190.
uno was also drafted in the first round, 9th overall for the 2017 NFL Draft. Coming in at 5'11", 194 pounds. You may know him as the fastest man to ever step on a football field, John Ross III.
Oh, John Ross. Okay.
I knew it.
John Ross is purely unstoppable. You put him in a slot, you put him on a drag, here you go. He's outrunning all your linebackers. You put him on a streak, don't matter who's on him, he's blowing by him. 4.22 speed, can't be guarded.
And I will say Huff has some kind of weird connection with John Ross where he is extra good with him. He's played with him so many times. If Huff has John Ross, he's going to go for 3 tutties on
Huffy
got
has
no
a 40 time tattooed on his left butt cheek.
you.
4.22, babe.
See for
Very
me,
good pick, Huff.
I like that pick, but at the same time, I'm not too familiar with it because I don't think I've played a Madden since John Ross has been drafted.
Really?
I
course
like
he-
might have played a game or 2, but I have.
Why don't you put that in it?
I'm out of the Madden game.
Why so?
Tworski's a big EA Ruin Madden guy.
I'm a big like. I won't get into it.
Well,
Okay.
I hope you not playing it changes things.
Wait,
'cause that'd
Tworski,
be
have
nice.
you played Madden 2013?
2013?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I've played Madden 2013.
Then you've played Madden 21.
Okay, but I don't
That's
have
as
the
much as
X
I'll say.
factors. I don't know about the X factors.
X Factors are sweet. Austin, who's your number 1? Is he an X Factor?
So my number 1, he's not an X factor. I don't even think he's a star development trait, but he is 6'8", and he hustles harder than any player I've ever seen on Madden. And that man is Margues Hunt.
Wow.
I didn't even think about him.
Hunter didn't even think about him. Now, he's never been the centerpiece of my defenses, but when I have
He's always
Margues,
on.
when I have Margues Hunt on my defense, he is in on every tackle. If there's a dog pile, Margues Hunt's jumping in there. He's always, if someone's busting loose for a touchdown, Margues Hunt's chasing him down, even if he's got 10 less speed, because he's 6'8" and he can dive for the shoelace tackle.
So big.
Austin,
It's just
this was,
honestly a culture pick because he's
Austin,
a good locker room guy.
this was the exact reason that I don't even have him on my honorable mentions, but I considered putting the Kraken on my list just for that
Kraken.
exact reason.
The Kraken's on my. I was saving him for you because all I can remember is his 10 sack performance against me.
Oh, not only his 10 sack performance, but that was the year that you called me out. You're like, you're dog shit. You're like, you can only dive catch me. And I'm like, okay. And then I played and I only ran the ball against you. But my defense just stuffed you, so you couldn't do anything.
I was using the Ravens. Michael Orr, blindside guy. 10 sacks.
For those that are
10
unfamiliar, I used to be nice at Madden. I'm not good at all anymore. Anybody in this podcast would probably dick on me these days, but I used
Probably
to be
not.
nice.
We'll get you back in the game, Tworski.
No, if I played any of you, I would get shit on.
We'll send you
I
a
don't think
copy.
that's true.
Send me a copy.
Okay. So my number 1, I don't think should come to anybody's surprise who played whatever the Madden with Odell on the cover was.
I think I know who you're gonna pick.
I know who it is.
Is this the king of the moss and toss?
Is it the king of the moss? So this guy is a guy who's drafted in the first round by the Chicago Bears, and he never really
Yep.
did anything in the NFL. I think at a
Yep.
point he was actually seeing a sports psychologist because he just was bad and people were
Such a
calling him
bust.
bad. But I'll tell you what, when you draft him in Madden and you just put him on a streak, he's gonna beat the guy every time for no reason because he's not that big. He's like 6'3". He's also fast. But my number one best sneak player of Madden all time, the guy who sets up the Moss and Toss. He's the toss. No, he's the Moss of the Moss and Toss. Kevin King. I'm sorry, Kevin King was before him. Kevin White.
Couple kids.
Oh, okay.
Who was your first pick?
Kevin King.
Oh, Max Williams. Or no, two's Max Williams. I was just making sure we didn't have a bunch of Kevins.
Yeah. Did I have a feature running back in the Moss and Toss?
Leonard.
No, you had running backs, but the toss was real good that year.
I'll tell you who he had. He had Leonard Fournette. And he
I
would
probably
do the,
didn't. I don't think he was in
No,
the
he-
Madden with Odell on the
Hunter-
cover.
Hunter, I remember 100%.
No, he wasn't.
I don't remember who we had at running back. It was mostly just worrying about the Moss.
It was probably.
But
Yeah.
it was just the fact that the toss was so good in that game.
I'll tell you who it was. It was probably Tevin Coleman or Giovanni Bernard.
That was Madden 6.
Telvin Coleman was always nasty, man. Actually, one of my honorable mentions that I had on here.
He almost made my list too.
So that was Madden 2016. When
With
was
Odell?
Leonard drafted?
That
Yeah, Odell's
makes
on the
sense.
cover. at
I
16.
thought Odell was on the
Makes
cover
sense.
like 13.
16.
Leonard was drafted
That makes
in
sense.
2017.
Yeah, so I definitely did not have Leonard.
Who did you have then?
I told you Giovanni Bernard or
Oh,
And as I told you, I don't think it mattered. It was just the fact that the toss was so good, and
It was
then
just the
the
toss.
Moss was also such a factor.
yeah. I
And
wasn't
all of
even-
his players looked like absolute thugs.
He still does that to this day. He still does that. But yeah, no, Kevin King, I didn't want to. I, for the longest time, wanted to not believe that Kevin King was that good on Madden. And I would still draft like Julio in the first round, and Hunter would still outperform Julio with Kevin King. Because he's
Ryan Mallett was probably throwing it to him.
yeah. Oh, yeah. The quarterback didn't matter back then.
Bro,
Yeah, the
I
guy with a
think
strong
that
arm.
I don't think there was anybody in our franchises that cared less about quarterbacks than me. I consistently just did not take a quarterback. I would take backup quarterbacks on actual NFL teams as my quarterback. But every once in a while, you find a Nathan Skinner and start winning 3
Champion.
straight bowls. So this might be a controversial pick, but you got to hear me out.
We're
I
listening.
think the best underrated Madden player of all time is a little player that might have gotten mentioned on this podcast earlier.
Old Randy Moss.
Randy Moss, not in his prime,
In the
at the
twilight
end of his career, when he was rocking like a 75 overall.
Hunter, you
At
don't
the point
understand.
where Randy Moss was like the 5th string wide receiver on like the 49ers or whatever team he was
It
on.
was the
He might-
49ers.
He was like the 5th string wide receiver on the 49ers.
He had like 84 speed.
He was not nice. He didn't even have nice stats. Like Taylor Mays had nice stats, just didn't have the awareness to actually do anything. Randy Moss was just not nice at all.
Do you want to?
But
Do you
you
want to know how
throw
we
him-
discovered Randy Moss?
you
How
throw
we
him
discovered
in,
Randy Moss.
you throw him in, and the dude actually just, you couldn't cover him. I watched Austin send all 11 people on his defense into man coverage against Randy Moss, and I bombed it up to him, and Randy Moss caught it.
There was nothing I could do. There was
Randy
nothing-
Moss
had
caught
that
so many
upset.
touchdowns against Austin, it was not even funny.
That
It's like
there's
it's
two
like-
games that stand out to me when I think of Jaworski. It's the Kraken 10-sack game, and it's the Randy Moss all 11 people in man coverage. He's still catching touchdowns, and he's 40 years old and can run, and is only 84 speed, and his stats are trash. And he's somehow still balling out. They had some kind of like hidden Randy Moss trait in that game.
They did have a hidden Randy Moss trait.
X Factor before X Factor.
I refuse to believe there was not a hidden Randy Moss trait, because there's no way that someone that bad should be that good in Madden.
Yeah.
Is probably the best wide receiver I've ever used in the game, and his stats were terrible.
They were titty. They were really bad.
Does anybody have any honorable mentions?
I have a few.
I mean, besides like Ryan Mallett when I was doing the Moss and Toss, not necessarily.
So I'm gonna go through a few of mine real quick.
A few, if you
I actually have probably like 5 honorable mentions.
Coming in at number 1 on my honorable mentions is Big Red Bryant. Red Bryant was a staple of my early Madden defenses.
Yeah,
and,
Red Bryant.
He was an absolute run stuffer.
Nasty.
Daryl Washington. Daryl Washington for a long time was a fast linebacker. I'd get on there a lot. Just Squeaky Tart. I feel like you missed out on Hunter.
No, I see, because Squeaky is like good in real life.
You got in on him early.
But
I know I get, but
he wasn't. I feel like in older Maddens he wasn't. Didn't have the good stats.
No, Kowarski, that's where you want him, is the old Maddens.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that's what but that's not like he might be good now, but
See, I think we were just drafting him because of his name, though.
And this one should have probably made my list, but I was teetering on it, and it's CJ Spiller, because
CJ Spiller was nasty in
that
Madden.
one year I had CJ Spiller. He was already the fastest running back in the game, or the second fastest to CJ2K. I upgraded his trucking to 99.
I remember that. That was miserable. That was miserable.
He was unstoppable. I remember Tyler Manna hit sticked him. His CJ Spiller's spine broke backwards, and he was literally like a 90-degree angle running down the field with a broken spine and his head like dragging off the ground, and he still scored the touchdown. Because he had a lot of heart, and he had a lot of perseverance, and he was a speed demon with 99 truck. So CJ Spiller, my top honorable mention.
I didn't know we were just gonna call out other people that aren't on the cast like that. But if we're gonna do that, I am going to for the rest of my honorable mentions.
You have full power.
Honorable mention. These are in no particular order. Like, not that any one of them would have made the list over any others, but one of my honorable mentions is Travaris Jackson.
Big Travaris.
Did nasty. I've also had many plays where Travaris Jackson's run down the sidelines, hurdling people. Insane. Should never happen, but happens in Madden. Derrick Henry, his rookie year, was actually probably the best running back in Madden.
Yeah.
That year
was he would always draft Derrick Henry.
If we're calling out people, I had Derrick Henry in a connected franchise, and Burley quit the league after playing my team. Burley literally straight up quit the franchise after playing my team because I think he quit after the first half, where Derrick Henry had like 280 yards rushing.
It was for
said, you know what? I'm never gonna win a championship. So he never played in the league again. A little more tame is Dion Lewis. Dion Lewis was just a nice running back to have. He always performed well. Very agile. I do have one that I never personally used, but Joe told me to toss on. Brian Anger. Told me throw Brian Anger in at quarterback, see what happens.
Spiteful Hunter pick? He was taken ahead of Russell Wilson.
No, he said Brian Anger, throw him in at quarterback, see what happens. Apparently, it's a real thing in Madden. I don't know. Never used it.
Interesting.
And last but certainly not least, no one can forget about the year of Corduro Patterson.
Cordero Patterson.
Where
Prince put him at running back?
No, well, Trench put him at running back and then cut him because he didn't like him. And then a CPU team picked him up. And this was back when we probably had 6 people in the franchise, but people were cheesing CPUs and stuff, chasing stats, trying to bump their stats up and stuff. Corduro Patterson won the MVP at running back on another team.
Oh man,
Trench is known for dismantling his team.
Yeah, that is Trench's calling card, is dismantling his team every week. What would always happen is me and Trench would be in the same division. He would lose week 1 to me, and then he would just demolish his team to build it differently, but it would be significantly worse.
It'd be a lot of diminishing returns. Torsky, I thought you were going to mention Ty God Taylor, because Torsky, the first time I heard of Tyrod Taylor, Torsky in the early Maddens would bench Joe Flacco when he was good.
It was Ty God's rookie year.
And put in Tyrod just for his speed and his playmaking ability.
I just remember watching Ty God in college, and I liked him. I remember the 360 throw on the sideline where he threw it and the dude toe tapped on the end zone. I was like, all right, if I'm playing the Ravens, I'm playing Ty God.
Hunter appears to be saying Trevor Lawrence will be next year's Sneak Madden Player of the Year.
I don't think he's going to be a Sneak Madden player. But I think I was picking his nose.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just saying.
No, that's what I was doing.
Take a peek at Trevor.
But yeah.
Obviously, even though I haven't played in a while, I am pretty passionate about these ones. This is probably one of the more fun lists that I've been a part of.
You know, this list would not have worked with Jake.
Yeah, I don't.
So this was the week to bust it out.
This was definitely the week to not have Jake on for the list.
But yeah,
I don't know if you guys ever used him, but I have one more honorable mention.
Oh yeah, go for it, Huff.
And it's the only running back on the list, and he's under a 70 overall, and it's Dree Archer.
Dree Archer, I have used Dree Archer.
Yeah.
Dree Archer was nasty.
Huff is a speed demon, dude. He's running.
Dree Archer was one of the fastest running backs in Madden.
Yeah.
D'Anthony Thomas too.
He was nasty when he was a rookie on Madden.
Next to rookie Derrick Henry, I guess you also have rookie Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley, I remember having on all of the franchises that we had, and he would regularly win the MVP. He was just running through everybody.
Pre-arthritis.
Oh, that was way pre-arthritis. It was pre being good at football.
Yeah, I mean, I did pick him up in fantasy his rookie year and got the dub. Him and Odell.